Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue to follow the heart-wrenching journey filled with love and untold secrets in the love story between CEO James and Dipe. In the previous episode, a cruel tragedy struck. Dipe, a fragile yet resilient woman, fell into the trap of the ruthless John, causing her the unbearable pain of losing the child she was carrying. This loss not only devastated Dipe but also left James, the man who had always protected her in silence, consumed with endless guilt. They shared a long night in sorrow and silence, mourning a life that never had the chance to be born. Realizing that the city was no longer a safe place, Dipe decided to leave everything behind and return to live with her aunt and uncle, the only peaceful place left in her world. James, as a husband and a responsible man, didn't hesitate to take her there himself, caring for her every need until her mind and body could recover. But James didn't stop there. He quietly resumed the investigation, determined to hunt down John and bring him to justice, to make him pay for all the cruel crimes he had committed to James. Justice must not be trampled on, and the pain of the woman he loves must not be ignored. And then in today's episode, a shocking twist unfolds. Trang, the one who seemed to be uninvolved, suddenly appears and reveals a stunning secret. What did she do? Why the sudden change of heart? Is Trang truly remorseful? Or is this just another piece in an even more dangerous plot? All will be revealed in today's episode. Don't look away. Every moment holds surprises you won't see coming. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue following James and Dipe on this emotional and dramatic journey. After bringing Dipe back to her uncle and aunt's home, James didn't rush to leave. Instead, he took time to speak privately with her uncle, a man he deeply respected, almost like a father figure. In James's voice, usually calm and composed, there was now a trace of worry and a deep sense of responsibility. I hope you can keep a close eye on Dipe in the coming days, James said, his voice low but earnest. Her health hasn't fully recovered, and emotionally, she's still very fragile after everything that happened. I can't help but worry about leaving her behind, especially knowing that John might still be watching and planning something even more dangerous. Her uncle fell silent for a moment, his eyes thoughtful, as if he fully understood the weight of James's concern. As a man who had seen much in life, he knew well the cruelty the world could inflict hand more than anyone. He could sense the pain Dipe was trying to hide behind her faint smile. At last, he placed a gentle hand on James's shoulder and gave a firm nod. Don't worry. I've considered Dipe my own daughter for a long time now. I promise I'll stay by her side and protect her from any harm, even if that means facing that cruel man, John. At that moment, James bowed his head slightly in gratitude, and the tension in his eyes seemed to ease. Though he knew the road ahead in his investigation would be dangerous, at least he could leave Dipe in a place of safety, surrounded by people who truly loved her. In the early days after returning to her aunt and uncle's home, Dipe found herself wanting nothing more than to curl up in the shadows. The pain of losing her child still lingered, quiet but relentless, clawing at every corner of her soul. But after countless restless nights, she came to a realization: she couldn't allow herself to remain fragile forever. James was out there, facing danger alone, fighting an unforgiving battle against the ruthless John. And she, out of the deep love she held for him, needed to become his solid ground, a strong and unwavering presence he could rely on. She began with the smallest things, taking gentle steps back into the rhythm of everyday life. In the mornings, she would wake early to help her aunt prepare breakfast. Then she would lead little Show, the young calf she had loved since childhood, out into the fields to graze. The soft earth beneath her feet, the breeze whispering through rows of tender rice shoots, the cheerful calls of birds overhead, all of it seemed to gently soothe and heal the wounds within her heart. No longer did she lie in bed all day or drown in her tears. Instead, she busied herself helping her uncle tend the garden, pulling weeds, carrying water, drying rice under the sun. These seemingly simple tasks slowly brought strength back to her body and clarity to her mind. With each drop of sweat that fell, a sorrow was washed away, a spark of hope quietly lit. In the evenings, the family gathered around modest but warm meals. Her uncle would tell stories of days long gone, her aunt would tease and laugh with tales of the neighbors, and the youngest child would chatter endlessly with questions for Dipe. Laughter echoed in the kitchen, the golden light cast gentle warmth on the kind faces around her, and Dipe's heart began to feel lighter, at last. Though deep within, the ache hadn't fully faded, Dipe knew she was slowly rising again. Each passing day was a step toward the light. She wasn't just recovering, she was growing. Becoming stronger little by little, and most importantly, she was ready. Ready to become James's quiet but steadfast companion. So that when he returned from his fierce battles of wit and will, his eyes would no longer meet the fragile Dipe of the past, but a Dipe who had matured, who was calm, resilient, and waiting for him with the warmest embrace. In the early days of joining the task force, James barely had a minute to rest. He threw himself into the investigation as if it were the only way to suppress the pain tearing him apart inside. By day, he attended meetings with the investigation team, combing through case files, emails, and surveillance footage. By night, he personally reviewed years of internal company data, hoping to uncover any overlooked clue. His once quiet and orderly office had now transformed into a mini investigation hub. The walls were covered with maps, relationship charts, and money flow diagrams. His desk overflowed with printed documents from archived databases. At all times, his computer screen displayed at least 3 live feeds, one monitoring the company's hallways, one tracking John's activity on social media, and another decoding encrypted streams in hopes of exposing hidden criminal networks. John, once thought to be just a corporate adversary, was now revealed in his true form, a cold, calculating link in a vast underground criminal organization. With a network stretching from shell corporations to illicit trafficking groups, he wasn't just a bad man, he was part of a system built on layers of deceit, manipulation, and blood. During task force briefings, James quickly became indispensable. Not only did he provide crucial insider knowledge from the timber company where John once worked, but he also understood better than anyone how John operated and covered his tracks. Thanks to James, the investigators uncovered one lead after another: suspiciously inflated timber contracts, cross-border financial trails, and clear signs of money laundering hidden behind seemingly legal investments. One time, when the team tracked down an old warehouse on the outskirts of town previously managed by John, James went with them to the scene. In the dim light, among the scent of damp wood, they found traces hastily erased but not gone, dried blood stains, paper sacks with chemical residue, and even packaging marked with symbols identical to those found in previous drug seizures. Near the southern border, James said nothing, his fist clenched tightly, veins visible under the skin, and his icy stare betrayed a burning rage simmering beneath the surface. He knew the closer he got to the truth, the more danger lurked ahead. John would not stay silent. And just as James had predicted, strange signs began to emerge after the task force was activated. His car was followed. The security camera system at his aunt and uncle's home mysteriously went offline for several hours one night, and several of his email accounts were attacked with unfamiliar malware. But this time, James wasn't afraid. He had prepared for every possibility, and more importantly, he wasn't fighting alone anymore. Authorities expanded the investigation to include international trade operations. Several offshore shell companies were added to a watch list, and Interpol joined the effort. The case had grown beyond the actions of a single man. It had become a war between justice and a transnational criminal system. Even so, for James, everything came down to one thing: he wanted John to pay, not just for Dipe, Not just for the child they had lost, but for justice. For every innocent person who had ever been a silent, forgotten victim. Late one night, as rain poured outside, James sat alone by the window. His phone lit up a message from one of the lead investigators. "We've confirmed it. A clean timber shipment John oversaw 3 years ago is directly linked to the drug warehouse near the border." This could be a key connection. James stared at the screen. A flash of resolve sparked in his eyes, not satisfaction, but absolute determination. The endgame was approaching. He tightened his grip around the phone, then stood up, eyes fixed on the storm outside. "John, the game is over." After a tense meeting with the investigation team, James returned to the company. His mind still heavy. He had put all company matters on hold during the time he cared for Dipe, and he was well aware that this had somewhat slowed the company's operations. That very afternoon, James held a private meeting with Trang, the CEO's secretary, responsible for managing contracts, tracking expenses, and handling all critical internal paperwork during his absence. The meeting took place in James's office, in an atmosphere that was both formal and subtly personal, for between them was a complicated history never fully acknowledged. Trang arrived on time, as polished and sharp as always. She brought a thick folder containing financial reports, contracts awaiting approval, and various pending documents for James to sign. Throughout the meeting, she demonstrated impressive professionalism, clear, logical, and thoroughly in control of every task. For the first time in days, James felt a rare sense of reassurance. Those sincere words caught Trang off guard. She hadn't expected James, after everything, to still look at her with such trust. Trang had once loved James, a deep, blind, one-sided love. And because of that love, she had made mistakes, had secretly hurt Dipe in the hope that James might turn back to her. But now, sitting across from this man, strong yet wounded, she felt something shift. No longer the urge to possess, but an understanding and a letting go. She looked at James and smiled softly, a rare smile from someone who had always hidden behind a mask of cold composure. "Don't worry. I'll take care of everything here at the company. Focus on Dipe and your family. That's what truly matters. I'm not the person I used to be anymore, James." At that moment, James paused. There was something different in her eyes, not stubbornness or jealousy, but a calm surrender. After a long, silent battle within, he could feel the change in her, deep and genuine. "I know," he replied quietly. "No matter what happened before, I still see you as a colleague, someone I truly respect. I hope you'll also learn to cherish Dipe, because she's the one I love. And more than that, I've always seen you as a little sister. I hope that one day you'll find true happiness in the fullest sense." Those words seemed to untie the last knot in Trang's heart. For the first time in years, she felt light. She no longer felt the need to chase something that was never meant to be hers. She looked at James, eyes slightly misty, but her voice steady. "Thank you, truly. I think I finally understand. Happiness isn't about taking, it's about seeing the one you love at peace. If I can see you smile, that alone gives me strength to keep moving forward and to live well." From that moment on, every misunderstanding, every blind ambition seemed to dissolve in the quiet understanding between two people who had once stood on opposite shores. James didn't mention the past. Trang didn't justify it. They simply looked at each other not as enemies or as lovers, but as two people who had weathered storms and were now ready to begin again, not with love, but with trust and mutual respect. James left the office feeling lighter than he had in days. Behind him, Trang watched in silence for the first time in her life, letting go of a man she had once loved desperately, with the calm strength of a woman who had finally learned what it meant to love the right way. That evening, as Trang returned home after the meeting with James, she stumbled upon something unexpected, a familiar car parked just outside her gate. It was John's. She froze, Her heartbeat quickened. Something didn't feel right. John never came here, not unless he had something to hide. Quietly, she slipped through the narrow side path along the house and crept up to the living room window, where warm yellow light spilled through the slightly parted curtains inside. She saw John sipping tea with her father always reserved, always distant from the company's affairs, now sat across from John. Both men tense. John's voice was low and laced with cold calculation. "This time, I'll make it clean." Dipe's weak, her mind's unstable. All it'll take is one little push, and she disappears. James will fall apart. That's when we step in. "The timber corporation will be yours, and I'll take care of the rest." Trang felt a chill sweep through her entire body. This wasn't just a scheme against Dipe. It was a full-blown plan targeting James, his company, and her father was a part of it. She stood frozen, hands trembling against the brick wall. Conflicted thoughts flooded her mind. A small voice, faint and dark, whispered from deep within her. The same voice that once loved James blindly. "If Dipe disappears, James will be alone, broken. That's when I can step in." But then, a different image surfaced clearly in her mind. James's face from earlier that day. His warm gaze as he told her he trusted her, that he saw her as a sister, that he wished her true happiness, and most of all, the way he smiled when he mentioned Dipe, the woman he loved with all his heart. If Dipe's harmed, James will suffer more than anyone. He won't forgive anyone, not even himself. And if he's in pain, could I ever be happy? That thought broke her. A wave of guilt and shame washed over her, stronger than anything she had felt before. The mistakes she made, the things she did to hurt Dipe in the past, all came rushing back with every breath. She realized she couldn't let the darkness of her past pull others down anymore. Trang slowly turned away, walking silently so no one would notice. But this time, every step she took was no longer hesitant. She knew what she had to do. That afternoon, after eavesdropping on John and his henchmen plotting to abduct Dipe, Trang couldn't stay still. She knew if they carried out their plan, Dipe would be in grave danger, and James would once again be plunged into devastating pain. This time, she wouldn't let it happen. There was no time to warn anyone, no time to call James. Trang jumped into her car and drove like lightning toward the countryside home, where Dipe was staying, her aunt and uncle's peaceful, humble place tucked away in the hills. The sun was beginning to set. Golden rays sliced through the bamboo grove, casting long shadows on the ground. When Trang arrived, the house was still and quiet. Dipe was nowhere in sight. Trang ran around the garden, to the back kitchen, the water well, even the buffalo shed, but there was no sign of her. Her uncle informed her that Dipe had gone up into the hills to gather medicinal herbs earlier in the afternoon and should be back soon. Trang's heart pounded. If she didn't reach Dipe before they did, the consequences would be unimaginable. Without hesitation, she followed the dirt path leading up the hillside, the trail Dipe usually took into the forest. The sun dipped behind the hills, the air growing colder, but Trang's steps remained steady, determined. 2 hours passed in breathless tension. Her clothes were stained with mud, hair tousled by mountain wind, but she didn't stop. Every step was a mantra: save Dipe, save the girl she once resented, but now, inexplicably, felt compelled to protect with everything she had left. And then, just as she circled back near the path to the house, she saw her Dipe, familiar figure, arms full of fresh green herbs, walking calmly out of the forest. At the same time, she caught sight of two suspicious figures lurking in the trees nearby, watching, waiting. Trang's heart clenched. Without a moment's delay, she rushed toward Dipe, forcing herself to stay calm and composed. "Dipe," she called out, her voice slightly breathless. Startled, Dipe turned around, wide-eyed and surprised. "Older sister Trang, what are you doing here?" Trang forced a faint smile, masking the fear in her eyes. "Oh, I was passing through the area for something and thought I'd stop by." "What a coincidence." You've been foraging for herbs? It's getting late, let me drive you home. It's not safe to be out alone. Dipe nodded, unsuspecting despite past misunderstandings. She remained respectful and gentle toward Trang, that kindness so natural. So genuine tightened something in Trang's chest. She had never imagined the girl she once tried to hurt could greet her with such calm acceptance. During the drive back, Trang stayed silent, stealing glances at Dipe, the softness of her face, her calm yet resilient eyes, her simple but sincere words. And then she understood. Perhaps James didn't love Dipe just because she was kind. Perhaps he loved her because she made others feel forgiven, made them feel healed. When they arrived at the gate, Trang scanned the surroundings. The two men were gone, likely retreating after seeing Dipe return. Unharmed. Their window of opportunity lost. She had made it. She had saved her. Dipe stepped out of the car, smiling gratefully. Thank you so much, Chol. I'm lucky you came by, otherwise I'd probably be exhausted getting home. Trang nodded, her eyes shimmering with unspoken emotion. It's nothing. Really, if you ever need anything, just call me, okay? I mean it. She didn't mention what she had overheard, didn't brag about saving her. But in her heart, she knew this time she had done the right thing, and Dipe's gentle smile was the most precious reward she'd received since her path toward redemption began. As Trang turned to leave, walking slowly beneath the amber sky, her shoulders heavy but her soul surprisingly light, the breeze swept through her hair, carrying away the ghosts of her past, leaving behind someone new, someone at peace, someone who, at last, had chosen to be kind. So then, has Trang truly changed? Are her feelings toward James and Dipe now genuine, or simply part of a more sophisticated plan? Dipe still carries a kind and trusting heart. But will that trust be betrayed once again? And James, alongside the investigation team, will they have enough time and evidence to expose all of John's crimes and bring him to justice? Too many questions remain unanswered. Too many secrets still lie beneath the surface of this fragile piece. Don't miss the next episode, airing tomorrow, as we uncover the latest twists in the battle between light and darkness, between justice and corruption. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss a single moment of this gripping journey.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người ơi, thì hiện tại kênh mình vừa mới kết thúc video James và LyTuDiep. Thì hôm nay James và LyTuDiep ở trong video đã có tình tiết khá là bất ngờ. Tập này thì không có chuyện gì xảy ra cả, nhưng mà có một tình tiết khá là bất ngờ khi Trang trước kia thì luôn tìm cách để hãm hại Diệp để chiếm lấy James, nhưng mà bữa nay thì sau một thời gian có thể là nhìn thấy tình cảm của James với Diệp thì cô ấy cảm động, hoặc là sau khi đã buông bỏ được tình cảm đối với James thì bữa nay cô ấy bất ngờ lại bảo vệ Diệp. Vậy thì hiện tại tình tiết đang là rất là gây hiểu lầm cho chúng ta. Liệu là Trang có thể là sẽ tốt với Diệp thật, hay đây chỉ là một mưu đồ? Vậy thì chúng ta hãy tiếp tục xem vào tiếp ở tập sau để chúng ta có thể hiểu rõ hơn mọi người nhé. Nhớ đăng ký kênh và bật chuông thông báo để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào nha.